Good morning. Welcome to Retro Toy Podcast. I am Allison Troy, and my guest today. Oh, I'm getting an echo.
That might be on my end. I don't know why. Hello?
Hello.
It's this guy, maybe. Test, test.
I don't know why.
Ugh.
Oh,
Hello?
hello.
It's this guy, maybe. Test, test.
Why would that be the case? Hold on.
It's this guy, maybe. Why would that be the case? Hold on.
All right. Let's see. Yeah, I can. Is what's behind you that's live? All right. Let's see. Yeah, I can. Is what's behind you that's live? Huh. Let's see. Is it on my side? It's muted. Huh. Is it on my side?
Yeah, I've got both my mics muted.
Yeah, I've got both my mics muted.
Well, yours is muted now, right? I'm testing and testing. Is my voice going to come back from the grave to haunt me? I don't see it. Oh, it's your new setup. But in the meantime, this is a Monchhichi. Hello, everyone. And these are Monchhichi.
But in the meantime, this is
Oh,
a
there it is.
Monchhichi. Hello, everyone. And these are Monchhichi. But in the meantime, this is a Monchhichi. Hello, everyone.
And then when you mute, it doesn't seem to do it. So, not this guy. Hi, everybody. I'm not Allison Troy. That is Allison Troy, and she's working on some tech stuff to figure things out. We were having some echo issues. But in the meantime, we're coloring, as you can see, some Monchhichi today. Don't know if folks are familiar. In the chat, let us know if you are. Yeah, I'm going to keep talking. But this is my Monchhichi from when I was a kid. I had a couple. I had smaller ones. And then my mom surprised me with this guy. An awesome giant thing. And you can imagine, I think when I got this, I would have probably been maybe this much taller, if anything. My foot would have been. So it was a big deal. And I remember taking him to, I want to say either Gemco, if that's a thing people know, or Best Catalog, I forget which one, to meet a person in a Monchhichi suit back in the day, because that was a thing that people did back in the 80s. So I remember meeting He-Man and Skeletor as well, and kind of being disappointed because they didn't just get a like big buff dudes, but instead they got people in full-on rubber muscle suits and a rubber head for He-Man, and that was just weird. So anyway, Monchhichi are rad. They've been around in Japan for 50 years as of last year. So 2 years older than this guy. And then they reached the US via Mattel in 1985. So this is their 40th anniversary in the States. Did I kill enough time? Did it work?
Yeah, I think we had an extra window open that had the live stream in it. So, so yeah, everyone's setup was good. It was just the extra window.
Because you've been like making your home and everything, and I know you just kind of created a window for a second there. My brain was like, wait, what does the window?
Yeah, no, like an actual. Yeah, no, we did all. That's why I wasn't here last Sunday. Was they were redoing windows, and there was kind of no way with. Well, I mean, there would have been a dude with a. I mean, Alex, aka Black Phoenix, would have loved it because there would have been a dude with a butt right here, just his butt sort of wiggling. But yeah.
Sweet. Wiggling
all
butts.
Right. We killed some time and people learned about Monchhichis really quick. Let's go through the chat. Good morning, Gaz. Welcome. Lovely to see you. Chris of Shiny Plastic People. Woo, right back at ya. Nolan, we've officially arrived. It is Toy to be time because Nolan is here. Andrew of Gades, I was just talking about you earlier, Andrew. Good things, of course. Alex just mentioned you and the cake that was here last week. Good morning to titular. I'll get it one day. That's too many tits in there. Titular hero. When? There you go.
I generally prefer 2. That's just 1, but okay.
Like, let's not be ableist. Some people
I
have
know,
to have
but
one
I'm just
removed.
saying it's true.
Amazon's allegedly back in the day used to have those removed, which is what they used to tell us, so they could shoot better bow and arrow. And then later I found out that's probably not true and just something some man made up to make Amazon's.
I was wondering what the latest research
The most
was
recent
on that.
research that cropped up, thanks Wonder Woman, during the Wonder Woman movie, was that's just an old thing that people used to say.
Are you sure they didn't just say that to get away from having to do that for, Anyway, sorry.
Maybe they just removed them because, Anyway, yeah, Cassie, I do remember My Little Pony Generation 1. I used to post coloring pages for My Little Pony, and then YouTube would flag them for kids, and then it would get wonky, so I stopped.
Stupid YouTube.
Hello, Bobby Wald. You had a Monchhichi? Yeah, there is an entire world of Monchhichis, which I learned about. Kenzo is watching sports ball playoffs. Okay. Well, you can catch the replay, Kenzo.
Oh, Kenzo.
All right. Now it looks like we are caught up. Oh, Derek Hoover just popped in to say Monchhichi. All right. So I think we've gotten the chat. Hello, welcome. If you have not been to a chat with me and Brick before, we will probably forget you exist. Once we get into our bullshit, as the kids would say. I don't know if kids actually say that. So.
Oh, sorry. Gotcha. I thought you were talking about like their entire existence forever.
Yeah, no.
But you're saying, got it. Okay, got it.
Yeah. I mean, sort of. Anyway,
there's somebody in there.
So we're calling some Monchhichi today. And this is a page Brick made from a couple different pages. At some point in the next couple of months on the channel, I have the old Kid Stuffs book, the Monchhichi's ABCs. It's one of those records on tape. And there will be a dramatic reading of that with some Monchhichi history. Brick will be doing the dramatic reading. I will be doing the history. But he put a page together for us to color today. And in case I finish it, I've got a couple extra pages. So I doubt it. There are a lot of little Monchhichis. And part of the reason we're doing Monchhichi was about a year ago now. In my feed, one of my many feeds, somebody tried to sell me Monchhichi, and I'm like, oh my god, somebody's trying to make Monchhichi happen again. And I made a joke about it on the Geek Dad Life server, and Brick was like, well, actually, Allison. And it was one of the few times a mansplain was accurate, so way to go, Brick, for bringing the mansplain back. And I was completely being a bitch. So anyway, in the year since, I have studied Monchhichi and realized it's just that we didn't get Monchhichi in America the way we should have. So there we go.
I don't remember that. What was what exactly were you saying that I had?
I literally was just like, oh my god, you guys, they're trying to bring Monchhichi back.
Oh, and I was like, what did I say?
They never went away.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's true. This is true. They never went away.
They never went away. Just because we didn't have them here is basically what you were trying to politely say.
Stupid Americans.
I know, right?
You don't appreciate good stuff.
I was being like an internet Karen type. Oh my god, you guys. I cannot. And it literally was just boring because when I was a kid, they were so expensive. I never had one. So it was literally not only me being a Karen, but it was also me like acting out of spite and jealousy because I was deprived as a kid.
Yeah, apparently we were super bougie out here in LA.
Well,
by the way, sorry, can I
your family out in LA? Like, let's.
Yeah, I was gonna say, can we just definitely do the thing of not just as a performative act, but like for real, folks are yeah, in general, man, like people are losing their homes or livelihood. And if they're not, they're currently like in a state of fear of just like seeing fire and, purple skies and red skies, and literally people can see like plumes of smoke constantly. The air is nutty in Los Angeles. So I was born in Los Angeles, and my family is still there. My family actually, when I moved to the Bay Area shortly after that, so I'm up here. I know, sorry, I gotta explain, because sometimes people are like, "Hey man, are you okay in California?" I was like, "Yeah," and then like California's huge, like it's most of the West Coast of the United States of America, and so I am about 6 hours away from where the nearest fire is, or maybe 5.5. I grew up in LA, and my family is still there. They moved to Pasadena. And so Pasadena is, there have been a number of fires. The first big one was in the Palisades. So sort of like by the water, on the west side of LA proper. But then more fires erupted because of these like massive winds and stuff. So the second big one was the Eaton fire, which is way too close to comfort to my family. So they were evacuated. And my parents and brother, luckily, were prepped. My mom's 100% on a full-time on a respirator. So even before the fire stuff, they were like ready to go, just because of they didn't want to lose power, which is a thing that happens in the winds. And so luckily they were all prepared, and they got the hell out real fast. They left everything though with just like fingers crossed. So the whole night, on like Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, I didn't sleep, and it messed with my brain, just trying to like watch the news and get some sense of like how close is the fire. Cause like literally I'll just say that now my brother and their family and all of them, they're kind of dealing with a little bit of like survivor guilt, because like a couple blocks down, stuff is gone.
Yeah.
I gave my brother and my sister a gift card to like, hey, what do you want for the holidays? And they're grown people. So it's like trying to give them experiences. Like, hey, what do you do regularly? Yeah. They go to this restaurant. They do. So we gave them a couple of restaurant gift cards just a couple weeks ago during the 25th, the holiday. And restaurants are gone. Like and I'm just trying to think of like, and that's just, those people's businesses, livelihoods, people's homes, like for blocks, not like, oh, this little area, there was a fire. Yeah. And that's just one part of LA down by the Palisades. Like you've seen that footage. It's wild. There's other, anyway, all that to say is I definitely have been distracted. People have been truly like affected and have to figure out how they're going to rebuild. And if you want to get the real deal on that, you're going to have to join Allison and I on a private thread, because we go deep on that stuff. But we're not doing that today, because we're talking.
Yeah, we're not doing that on.
So
I'm going to keep it light-ish.
I just wanted to say that we're thinking of folks. This is part of our distraction.
Yeah.
This is therapy. Get some coloring on, like just try and get a moment of joy and peace where you can. So done. Sorry.
And really quickly, Andrew is not only shading me and my love for GoBots, but he's propping you up in them. So it's a proper slam. So there you go. But and I will again say the whole reason I loved GoBots as a kid is, one, they had girls. Transformers did not. Two, they were cheap. They weren't overpriced like Transformers, so you could get 2 or 3 GoBots for a price that you couldn't even get like a crappy Transformer. You couldn't even get the little pack with the cassette tape Transformers for the price of 2 or 3 GoBots. So whatever. Everyone who just stands for Transformers only in the 80s and doesn't appreciate GoBots was just spoiled little rich bastards.
And well, apparently I was a spoiled little rich bastard for the Monchhichi, which is like is true regardless of like that's not actually the reality of our situation. But like, as a lot of immigrant families, like when they got here, my parents got here, my dad first in 1969, my parents then fully transitioned from the Philippines in 70. And then, they live with my dad's parents, and then eventually like found Downey, California, like, kind of did their thing, and they saw what was happening around in terms of like people buy toys for their kids, they do all this stuff, and they were just like, we're gonna do whatever we can to give these kids a sense of like quote unquote normalcy in this 80s United States of America.
Yeah.
And they definitely spent a lot of freaking money.
Well, am I
on
misremembering?
toys, and I can't wrap my head around it.
Didn't I, for some reason, thought for a while that your mom had worked at Mattel,
She
correct?
did. She did. She worked at Mattel, and then another factory, I'm forgetting which one, but she would get to bring toys home.
Because Monchhichi in America was here because of Mattel bringing them over.
Yes. And
so
I have to
entirely possible that she was using her employee discount to get you Monchhichi, because
I know that that's actually, sorry, I do know that that's not the case, because by that time she had started working in an accounting firm, and then because she told me when she got this guy over here, she took her lunch and went to the local, I think it was a Gemco on her lunch break, and she was telling me how she remembered walking out of the store with that big thing in her arms, and like she had this vivid recollection of coming down an escalator with that thing in her arms, and everybody in the store like looking at her.
Yeah,
like what is this lady doing? Like what is that thing? And yeah, so but she did get my brother. This was more like the 70s.
Yeah.
And I remember she got him some cool things, and that, I was obviously born into and inherited. So
yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, my only real I mean, obviously the Smurfified cartoon that was on, which, for the record, you'll have to watch the full video for this, did not reflect the actual continuity and lore of Monchhichi from back in Japan. They Smurfified the heck out of that.
For sure.
But what was interesting to me was it was very sort of gendered here, and it was very much sort of coded as like girls' toys. And the more I dig into it, the more it's very non-gendered. It was very non-gendered in Japan, and still kind of is. It's just sort of, oh gosh, this is where my Americanism is. What is it in Japan? And you're not Japanese, but I know you've studied Japanese culture and you have a love for it. So this is not me assuming you're Japanese.
Don't worry.
You don't understand me and Brick's friendship. Brick goes to Japan and
cancel.
Sorry. Right. What is it that they call, like, when you like little cute, like things like Hello Kitty? It was sort of like the little cute.
Toy?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Which is like cute. Cute. Yeah, but
like
sure.
Cute little. Yeah. Sorry, I just couldn't quite. I have a cold and I'm really hopped up on Dayquil peeps.
It's cool. So, I'm intensely offended, but I'm gonna say
yeah, that was exactly the word. So like, and that's sort of also non-gender. I mean, like, sort of the way it gets filtered over here is very much through a lens of, sort of cute little Japanese girls, well, and not little girls, but like girls in Japan doing cute little thingies, and but it's very non-gendered over there, so that was kind of a surprise.
Yeah, their notion of gender, like, expression is a little bit different, but there's also very much this notion of like, masculinity, femininity, and stuff there too. But I think with kids, it is definitely a little bit different.
Yeah, it seems
but I think
later.
But, it was still there. They had their like, they're very much like shown in like, oh, this is for like teen boys, superheroic action. But even within there was a lot more room.
Yeah.
In the way they presented what was for boys and what boys should be thinking about,
right?
Then I would say here, it wasn't just the action. There was also like all sorts of stuff. Like some of my favorite anime for quote unquote boys, like even as late as the 2000s, like Full Metal Alchemist is like about family and loss and grief, and in a very like thoughtful way, complex way that you just didn't get. But that said, like I don't actually even know, in your research on the like the what was going on with the Monchhichi back in Japan back in the day, was there actual like lore? Was it a story, or was it just like these are cute, have fun with them.
Yeah, well, it's sort of a little bit of both. It started as they're cute, they're fun, they're these little cuddly. It's almost like I mean, because if you know anything about the history of the teddy bear was created is a very American construct. Um, I mean, like
Tell me more.
people had stuffed
I don't know.
animals, they had stuffed bears, but the actual teddy bear is because of Teddy Roosevelt, and that's how it sort of rose to
Oh, right.
popularity.
I
So
did
it's a
hear
very
this.
American phenomenon, the way we understand teddy bears.
Mhm.
And again, some of this is based on I don't know how to speak Japanese or read Japanese, so some of this is coming from like Google Translate. So we
Sure.
all know how that can work out, but at the same time, it's not as if they were like, oh, let's do teddy bears. It was more like it sort of sprung as like, let's create this cute little cuddly teddy. Again, like I'm Americanizing it in my description, but this cute little cuddly thing kids can have that is very cute
Mhm.
and very fun. And we can sell, yeah, it's again, it does sort of have the corporate, we could sell clothes for it and we could sell accessories and let's, it's sort of the barbification,
Yeah.
the Barbie side on that. But it wasn't necessarily from a Western point of view. It was just, this is what we think kids in Japan would like.
Mhm.
And also Asia, because again, it's almost sort of like, again, this is me trying to translate it through my American brain, but it's almost like it sort
Right.
of, when something is created in the US, there's almost this unspoken rule that there's the knowledge that it will end up sort of Canada, Great Britain, etc. And it
Mhm.
also seems through my research, there was just a lot of Japanese toys in general, with the understanding it will spread to other Asian speaking countries, like it will be a thing. And it kind of seems like through my, again, I could be complete. This is why the video has not happened, even though
Don't worry about the
for
disclaimers. Like
months and
whatever.
years.
We're not experts. Yeah.
But so it seems like it rose from that, and then there was an animated series in Japan, or a special. I can't get. It was very small, like segmented episodes that were released. So I don't know if it was a bigger thing that they broke down.
Okay.
I haven't been able to watch it.
Okay.
But it did not have any sort of lore.
Yeah. Well,
that compares to what we know, and it seems like it was maybe created specifically for an animated special. So it looks like there was technically no Monchhichi lore other than these are cute. Look at these cute little Monchichis that are these cute little things you can give your kids, or if you're a kid, you should want these. It looks like that's how it started. It looks like they tried to give it some lore. There was a little animated show that seems to have done, from what I can tell, pretty well. I can't find it. And if I do find it, it's going to be in Japanese, probably without even subtitles. So,
well, I think there's like, this is also the same place that birthed like Hello Kitty, right? And
yeah,
Sanrio culture. And
it
I've
was
always
around the same.
assumed, I've always assumed it was very similar in that like there may or may not have been like an ongoing show or whatever, and it almost didn't matter because kawaii, like just being cute, kind of ruled the day. And so there's like, oh, that's cool. And that's actually not too different from how I continue to collect toys. It's just like, oh, that stuff is cool. I like that. I want that. That's great if there's like all that other story and that deepens my love for it. But I know other people are kind of like lore first. But I mean, that's how I did AWOC, which I do think there's a through line from Monchhichi to Animal Warriors of the Kingdom. But and that's how I did even Masters of the Universe, right? There was no cartoon. Filmation didn't exist. If you got those toys when they first came out, it was just, dude, look at that skeleton. Like, holy crap. And so it was just, so there's a little bit of that. And I know a lot of people don't go that way, don't do toys or pop culture that way, but it's still something that I did even from this day. So to this day, I don't even know how this all came down in Japan.
Really quick, I'm going to pop in. Studio Hinge Kenton, welcome. Lovely to see you.
What's up, Studio Hinge?
And we're getting some GoBots love in the comments. So thank you, all you GoBots fans, for holding stuff. Holding space, as the kids call it. Wait.
Not the kids, but sure.
Thanos. Thanos is here somewhere. I see them saying hello to everyone, but I missed
He
you
loved
arrival.
Thanos.
So hello,
He
Thanos.
sorry, did I say he loved Thanos? I meant to say he loved Monchhichi. He had Monchhichi. We were talking about it last night.
And Carol is here. Hello, Carol. Welcome.
Hey, Carol.
Lovely to see you. And Todd, welcome, Todd C. Lovely to see you as well. Thank you. And that's, yeah, they kind of do look, Todd's like, they look like they do kind of have a like hedgehoggy, but hedgehogs are also really adorable. So I don't know. My only, again, like they were pretty spendy. I remember not being impressed with the Saturday morning cartoon as a kid, which has translated. I watched a couple episodes and I'm just like, ooh.
I love Monchhichi and I couldn't even barely get into the show. I was like, oh, the bad guys look kind of cool. Like, you know, the gray ones, and they look
they're
a
like
little
gnarly, gray, and
yeah, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool looking. But then I'd watch it, and it was a little, it skewed young, and
it's skewed young, and it's just very Smurfified. It's like the Monchhichis live in peace at treetops, and here's the Monchhichi who bakes, and here's the girl, and here's the, you know, it's like it's very like the Smurfs.
Don't get me wrong. Did you not like the Smurfs?
I liked the Smurfs, but I think the problem was the Smurfs were the Smurfs, like
right.
And then and I think with Monchi, it's way more evident watching it now, sort of as an old person who, you know, like I did not finish my college degree, but it was in mass communications, which is now journalism, or, you know, like video editing or whatever. So I had to take, you know, like they would call them media literacy now, but it was like, you know, critical thinking around. And, you know, a lot of English lit. So I now, you know, can now recognize that it was an attempt to shoehorn an existing property into a concept that was working, rather than trying to find literally than trying to adapt anything that had existed. The problem with that, as far as it looks, is that animated special that is the only thing I can find. Seems like it was almost the same thing, where somebody took the concept and they built a story around it instead of something that happened organically. So I can't 100% at this case blame Hanna-Barbera for like, well, the Smurfs works, let's turn them into Smurfs. I think it says more to the need to create a lore to sell a toy.
Sure.
You know, instead of letting it be its own thing and just existing, we have to turn it into a cartoon. It has to be this, it has to be that. Instead of just, it's a toy, it's cute, let kids buy it, let kids want it. So
yeah, I mean, it's very much like business driven, and the marketing sort of like sense of the day, where it's like,
yeah. And it was Mattel. It was right around the time Masters of the Universe was blowing up, and also it's important. This is sort of where the Star Wars vacation of toys happened. Was that Star Wars was such a huge push that, you know, like you had to have a story, you had to have something kids could latch onto in that respect. Same reason sort of G.I. Joe turns out the way it is because we need this comic book, we need this ongoing story to like sell this world. And I think it didn't quite work for Monchhichi, because there's not, you know, even this kids stuff storybook, which is seems a lot closer to the concept of Monchhichi as it was sort of in Japan, where it's just like Monchhichi is like happiness and joy, and about being nice and good to people, and
you know, so it's like, yeah, there's something to be said about American pop culture in the 80s, where it was very much like conflict driven, right? Like you have to be like, who are the good guys, who are the bad guys, what are we, and then there's this notion of trying to appease certain powers, where it's like, well, no, we're going to make it educational for kids, which whatever, I get, but it was like, again, I feel like we as a culture in the United States during that time tended to talk down to kids, and that's what I was alluding to with like anime, where it was very much like they found what I think are like age level appropriate ways to challenge kids to think about difficult things, and sometimes it wasn't always, you know, happy, and you had to, you know, like there's very much that, which
Oh yeah.
from a nerdy big picture thing, that's what happens when your nation goes through certain things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll leave it at that. But
right. I mean, Godzilla 100%, as much as it's overlooked, is really a direct sort of impact of sort of World War II on Japan. Like,
it's like working through
nuclear power has completely devastated in a way where it awakens this ancient primal beast from the bottom of the ocean that may be even worse because of, so
working through stuff. And that's perfect. Like, there is this acknowledgement that art and fun cartoons or shows or whatever can actually also be a way of working through national trauma or realities. And there's like a very much a it seems like a very self-aware attempt to use art and culture in that way versus dude, just make it cool. Although there was a little bit of dude, just make it cool mixed in there. So I don't know. At the end of the day, when these things got brought over, like a lot of things, right? When they got brought over from Japan, it was like it went through some bean counter. A little bit of that was at the table. A lawyer was at the table. Creatives were there too. And then, like somebody just sort of thinking about, well, how is that company doing it, or how is that property doing it? So like,
I think, sorry.
Oh no, I was just going to say, like, I was going to take a little bit of a swerve, but just for example, one of my favorite things on the planet was this show that was called Battle of the Planets back in the day when I was a kid,
G-Force.
G-Force.
I love G-Force.
That eventually set the tone for like so much like pop culture that we're familiar with the whole like team dynamic and the color coding, like Voltron and Power Rangers. But when they brought that here from Japan, they had people sit around and they're like, okay, how can we make this work? Well, let's take away the stakes. Let's take away some of the death. Let's add a cute little robot. Right. Let's get
Star Wars
Casey
is big. The kids love Star Wars. Let's Star Wars-fy it.
Right. And so, and I get that, because at the end of the day, they're like, how can we make this a thing that people understand and like, but also that we can make a lot of money on? And so there's that localization. Same thing with Transformers, right? Like, and so anyway, I get it. I just sometimes do lament, like, man, how cool would it have been to just be in a culture where things were a little bit different, the way they handle pop culture. So I look at Monchhichi and it's like, I do think there's a through line of like, hey, this is cute, cool stuff. And, it just lets you be a kid and all that kind of stuff. But then it also lets you explore like, hey, they don't look like you. These things don't look like you. What are these things? I hope you don't look like this. But like, they're weird animal, like monkey type things. And you just kind of get immersed in that world. Same with Hello Kitty. And then you're evolve into like some of the action, and I don't know.
I think, and this is sort of, again, I have not found the evidence for it. Again, this is why my video is taking sort of as long as it is, because I want to, I want some meat to it.
Sure.
Also, there's not a lot of Monchhichi content on YouTube that I can find, which is frustrating, because that's sort of, like my first stop is like, who has already done a video? Do I even need to make a video on this thing? There are a lot of people who love Monchhichi and share their collections and like their memories of it. Those are amazing to watch. But there are, I haven't found any. Otherwise, I would probably be farther along in making my video. If you watch the video you like, you see what their sources are. And
Ooh, I'm just realizing now, maybe not all these have clothes on. How should you?
Right. Anyway, though, it was Mattel who brought them over, and the timing of when they brought them over is sort of when Smurfs were blowing up, and not
85.
everyone. Smurfs started blowing up in 81 to 82.
Oh no, I meant these came over in 85. So yes, I was trying to do the backwards. Smurfs
Actually,
came
no.
a couple years later.
No, Smurfs started in 81. Monchhichi actually, Mattel started importing them in 1983.
Oh, okay. I thought it was 85.
Yeah, it was 83 to. I don't have my file open, but the cartoon debuted. I think the cartoon was in 85. So, but again, that makes sense with animation lead time. And pretty much by the time the animation hit, and then it lasted maybe a year. It only got to one season, and they canceled Monchhichi as a toy line in 1985. It looks a little bit like, again, I don't have full research to back this up, but it looks a little bit like Mattel brought in Monchhichi to sort of compete directly with Smurfs in the toy aisle, because that's the thing Mattel does. If you've studied any length of Mattel for any toy line, they pretty much try to, Barbie and the Rockers was because they got a heads up about Gem and the Holograms. Hasbro went to do a doll line called Maxie. Suddenly, Barbie's got there's a teen line with it, not Skipper, like Barbie's slightly older teen cousin gets a toy line. In the 70s, Kenner attempted a couple times to, first there was Dusty, who was more athletic. Suddenly, you're getting Barbie that is more athletic, and Kenner tried again with Darcy and Darcy is a supermodel and fabulous and can do splits and all these things Barbie can't do. And suddenly they started upping the posability on Barbie, and she becomes Superstar Barbie, and Superstar Barbie is also a model. So Mattel has a history of sort of adapting. Masters of the Universe famously spun out of, we need to compete with Star Wars, and we're tired of paying licensing for movies that fail because we didn't buy Star Wars. So, and She-Ra, I love She-Ra, but She-Ra was literally girls are buying Tila. Let's do a girls action line. And it moved over to the girls department at that point. And under quite a bit of inner office unhappiness. But what is really interesting is Justine Dancer, who helped develop the She-Ra toy line in the beginning, had been working at Kenner over on Glamour Gals, which Glamour Gals, I've got a bunch behind me, were like the 4-inch doll line, sort of Star Wars. The Kenner was having some success with, and suddenly Mattel released a doll line called Dazzle, which 4-inch little mini dolls. But also Justine worked on that, and she was developing, it looks like, an action toy line for Kenner, because some of her early Princess of Power sketches have a Kenner stamp on them. So she moved over to Mattel and took some of her designs, it looks like. And that's and also Kenner was planning a Amethyst Princess of Gemworld doll line as part of their big deal with DC that Superpowers came out of. And they ended up not pursuing that because between She-Ra and Golden Girl, they felt like the market would be saturated. So, long way of saying Monchhichi's, I think, partly came to America as a way of Mattel trying to not
compete
that side of the girls' aisle to Smurfs, which again, Smurfs were pretty non-gendered, but at the same time, it did hit a really specific demographic Mattel was not getting. So I'm hoping I can prove all of that in a video. Find enough evidence to call that more than a educated guess based on Mattel practices. So. Right. Yeah, there's anyway.
The concepts of what? What was Andrew?
He's talking about they've got a side convo about some of the original Sailor Moon ideas when they were trying to Americanize Sailor Moon.
Oh, sure.
They were gonna make her like a windsurfer or some such. So
Eek.
But
I was gonna say, to go back a little bit, there's a couple of things that popped up as you were talking. Like, if this was an attempt to grab an existing property and quickly launch it in the States to compete with Smurfs. Question. I don't remember who was selling Smurfs here. The little, like, I had a couple of those, and we had one mushroom house, but weren't those like super? Those felt like niche too. Smurf toys seemed niche, but the Smurf cartoon was huge.
Yeah.
Who was that? A big toy company or?
They were through that. What is it? Oh God, I'm gonna slaughter it. It's German though, so it's okay. White people can be mad at me. Schleicher, I think is the name of it. They do a lot. They still sell mostly the same Smurf products, but it was like little PVCs. But there were a lot of stuffed Smurfs. A lot of people don't remember that Smurfs. Most of us think Smurfs. We think the little PVCs, which were made by a German company, imported over here. Which is why they were harder to come by. But every drugstore that you went to in the 80s had this big box, just open box with Smurfs in it. Like they weren't packaged, they were just PVCs in a container. And then some stores would have those shrink wrapped. I had a pretty extensive mini collection, which I am ridiculously trying to rebuild. But it was like Smurfs, and it started because of Strawberry Shortcake and Smurfs, because the Strawberry Land miniatures, which were like that big, those were $1.99, whereas the regular size Strawberry Shortcake $8. So if you have $5 to spend at the toy store and you want Star Wars Strawberry Shortcake and something else, a Smurf, $5, a Star Wars figure and 2 minis pretty much get you there.
Okay.
But I had a lot of mini stuff. And once I find a digger, I'll have a vintage Shirt Tails PVC collection complete.
Well, that was my next thing, was bringing up Shirt Tails and some of the other things that were meant to be of this age, even Ewoks eventually, right? This is much later, but
teddy bears. Well, Ewoks, of course, was George Lucas, but Shirt Tails is again American, like Strawberry Shortcake was those characters from Cleveland.
Right.
They had some success with Holly Hobby merchandise. And they realized there's a lot of money to be made with merchandising a concept. Star Wars was hitting really big, so they had Strawberry Shortcake as we know her didn't technically exist until 78, 79 when they went to sell the character. American Greetings had done some marketing research that showed that cards that had strawberries on them sold really well. And one of their designers had designed a character. They called her Strawberry Girl. She's a little bit more Holly Hobby-esque, a little bit older, but had like the basic look of the big bonnet hat and like an apron. She was in a patchwork, darker colors, but they called her the Strawberry because there were some strawberries on it. And it sold really, really well. So I think she was on another card or two. And then they had in-house, they set up an entire division called Those Characters from Cleveland to create characters that they could put on merchandise. Because again, Holly Hobby was doing really well. But I believe even they had licensed Holly Hobby from the original artist. So it wasn't even like they were getting a full cut of that. So they set up their own in-house department to create characters. They'd also had some, I can't remember if it was them or Hallmark, but Ziggy was doing really well. And again, they were marketing Ziggy.
Ziggy. That's right.
Cards, on toys, like you could get stuff, which if you're going to put, I had a friend who had a stuffed Ziggy, and it was always weird to me that somebody wanted to cuddle with that, but like, get your bag however you need to get it. Like, no shame.
I think there was a little shame there, but okay.
Yeah, there's a little bit. I'm sorry if you're a 5-year-old girl and you're cuddling this Ziggy doll. Even at that age, my brain went places where they would still go today. It's just a little weird. Anyway,
Ziggy.
But yes, American Greetings started creating all these things specifically to turn into stuffed animals, to turn into toys. Strawberry Shortcake, Shirt Tails. When Kenner came to them and said, we would like to get into the teddy bear industry, they were like, I think we can help you. We've got this idea called Care Bears.
Yeah.
Specifically created at the behest of Kenner so that they could compete. How do we make teddy bears different? And it did so well that it kind of
And trademarkable.
and trademark exactly. Like, how can we trademark a teddy bear? And of course, American Greetings, those character from Cleveland, still to this day, even Kenner is long gone at this point, and yet the brands that they help shape and create still doing really well. So, but anyway, Monchhichi came over, so and Care Bears hit in 1983. So I'm not entirely convinced that Mattel wasn't like, oh shit, we don't have anything to compete in that aisle. They've got Smurfs and they've got these Care Bears coming, and
Right.
nobody here is creative. All we know how to do is to go to other countries and bring back things and call it Barbie after we've sanded our nipples off.
So creative.
Everybody's so creative. I need to get that as a sound clip now that I can do sound clips. But
well, here's the thing that is striking me as you're talking. It's like these were definitely younger toys, right?
Yeah.
And so while we had Star Wars,
yeah,
and we had even Adventure People prior to that, or G.I. Joe, let's say, then Transformers, that was for kind of the older set. Like that's what my brother was doing while I was in these. And I think that signaled for my parents. They're like, well, we're getting Ted, my older brother, like all these toys, Star Wars. What can we, get for Brick?
Yeah, exactly.
And so,
because we all know Brick was your name even back then.
Yeah, totally. And so they're just like, why don't we hit that younger market, which we now know as like people who follow action figure stuff online. We talk about it all the time, how like these toy companies, these Hasbros, these Mattels, like that, their bread and butter really is in the younger kid set, the preschool set. And so I imagine that maybe even more than G.I. Joe and Transformers, there was this rush to like want to dominate that market, right? That like, well, how can we get the thing that's going to get kids into buying toys at a younger age, watching cartoons, and then eventually they'll grow up. So I've said, like, I think there's a through line from like Monchhichi to the stuff that I like, and I think there is that. There's I suspect, again, this is all conjecture, but there has to been those folks in the advertising, agencies talking about like, okay, how do we create lifelong consumers that'd be interested in fantastic animal hijinks and action, and they can move from this age to this age. Oh, Monchhichi, look, like it says here, like, M is for whatever, millions and millions of Monchhichi spreading joy, and then eventually it's like, oh yeah, what if we
spreading
put a
joy and making millions
Monchhichi's
to the
hand?
company.
Right. And what do we do if we put a sword in a little like, monkey type character's hand? Or what if we have a little military? And then they just kind of move through, which is funny because that's like the opposite of what George Lucas was doing, where he's like doing the Star Wars thing, which arguably was meant for a younger audience than took to it even at first. And then kind of slowly over time went all the way to an animated droids and Ewoks cartoon.
Yeah, and in the animated, not animated, the live action droid specials, like, I'm not gonna lie, I think George is still salty that the Ewok stuff didn't take off the way he wanted it to back in the day, because like at some point it became really clear that like watching the Phantom Menace, it's really clear that he wants to speak to like, I'm not gonna begrudge him, like. Based on the age I was when I latched on to A New Hope, like I was like 3, I think, when when that came out. 270, yeah, I was like 3 when that movie came out. And I latched onto, and what's interesting is before that I had like Disney stuff, like lots of Disney. I had I had a Charlie's Angel, I had Sabrina Duncan. The Charlie's Angel doll from Hasbro, which was sort of my first grown-up toy. Had a lot of Little People stuff, the Little People house, the barn. I had that Sesame Street thing, that house that came with the little plastic PVC. I had Weebles. They wobble, they don't fall down.
Right.
And all the Peter Pan stuff, right?
Peter Pan?
Peter Pan, the movie, because they re-released it in 1976. That was the first Disney movie I remember seeing at a theater.
Okay.
My grandfather, who grew up on an Indian reservation, did not appreciate that movie, and I now understand why he would get mad. Anyway,
why is the red man? Yes, I know.
Yeah, he was not a fan of the Peter Pan.
Good for him. So, good for him.
He also used to, I mean, he was a mean drunk because reasons, but whenever my aunt would listen to her share records of the 70s, awfully get really mad. He did not care for at least 2 or 3 Cher songs. So you can go Google why that might be if you're watching and wondering. But there's at least one Cher song that's what they used to call me, and he would like lose his shit. Anyway, and you know, they would all laugh at him because that's what happens when you marry a white woman and have white babies. Anyway, anyway though, Peter Pan.
We said we weren't going there, but yeah.
Oh yeah, we're not. I just. From my grandfather, he's you know, like he's been dead 25 years.
Yes, it's real. You can't ignore it for sure.
Yeah, he died in January. So I love you, Grandpa, wherever you are. Anyway, he worked at Area 51. Anyway, but Peter Pan was the first thing I sort of latched onto, and then Charlie's Angels, and then Star Wars. But like I had all these other toys. I had the Weebles, I had the Little People, I had all that stuff, but that's all the stuff my mom thought I should want. And Star Wars was really the first big thing that was what I wanted. It was like what I was into. It was my thing. You know, I was, you know, 4 when the toys started hitting, but you know, like that was the first thing that captured me. You know, Peter Pan did, even though they were trying to potty train me at the time and believing that there was a crocodile and the toilet did not help with potty training. It took another year to get me potty trained because I was afraid that crocodile was going to eat me. Even on my little training toilet, apparently. I'll just tell you that the first time you bring your first boyfriend home, that's not the story you want your mom to tell. So.
Oh, jeez.
Mother. Anyway, but yeah, Star Wars was the first thing that was for me, and I think that's why it's remained sort of this through line for me. And I think it's probably a little bit like that, sort of for you with the anthropomorphic animals. Like it sounds almost like Monchhichi is one of the first things maybe you wanted, like for yourself, without like input from an adult, like where the adults are like, this is a thing that your brother handed down to you. Like there's a lot of shit my brother played with as a kid, Star Wars. And then I took Masters of the Universe from him because I was like, Tila and Evelyn, I'm in. And it stopped being his thing and was our thing. And then I wouldn't let him get any She-Ra stuff. I was like, She-Ra's for me. You can't have that. Anyway, no.
Well, you know, it's funny that like I think there is that through line for sure. I think there's a bunch of other reasons why I gravitate more towards sort of like animal or alien type creatures that we don't need to get too into here. But I will say that like as far as the thanks. No, that's not what I meant. But yes, there's something about the fantastic, I guess, of like, you know, I know people like I remember at one point my mom and dad tried to do the whole Cabbage Patch thing, and like I had one, but like I remember having the thought of like these are not nearly as cool as the Monchhichi, and I think so much of that was like, dude, I mean, I deal with people all the time. People are fine, but like I really dig fantasy. I dig genre. I dig, you know, stuff that is like very different from my reality to ultimately like give me some insight into the real world. But like, so when I was buying toys and stuff, it's like I was definitely always attracted more to the, I don't know, the non-human, I guess, the thing that was least representative of reality. Like even with G.I. Joe, it was the same thing. Oh crap, you know, the soldiers are cool, but like the soldier that's all in black and doesn't talk, that's extra cool. Or the Cobra, like, you know, fighting people in other other colored fatigues with a different flag is like fine, whatever. But the notion that you're fighting these blue troops with like that worship the snake or whatever, that was cool. Or Destro was cool. Or, you know, Crystal Ball, the weirdos that people are like, oh, I don't want them. Yeah, like it's that sci-fi element or weird element or fantasy element, non-human element, all of that stuff was always what I gravitated towards. So
I did
like,
yeah. I did not get into. I like had Scarlet. I had the Baroness. I had, like, of course, I had all of these, right? And Lady J.
Mm-hmm.
I did not get into GI Joe until Zorana and the year of the ball. Like Zorana, I was like, it was, and this is also sort of my in between time. Like, you know, I'm still playing with toys, but music, boys, horror movies were big, and my favorite movie was Return of. My mom hated it, right? She hated that I loved slasher movies and zombie movies, and I loved all the Friday the 13th movies the most, because those are the ones my mom hated the most. She was like, Halloween is fine, that's respectable. Because she went and saw that at the theater with her friend, and they got the shit scared out of them.
How was that respectable now?
I don't know. It just was.
Okay. Cool.
Friday the 13th was not. So those were the ones I loved, right? And there, it also helped that there were.
Sorry to quickly interrupt, but I'll just say, since you brought it up, Friday the 13th, not as fun to me. Nightmare on Elm Street, that was a shit.
Elm Street was really good, and
fantasy again.
For me, Friday the 13th ends with the first 4. I have all of them, of course. This is how I decided when to buy a new like, I didn't buy Blu-ray until they released the big Friday the 13th Blu-ray set. But for me, it does end with the final chapter. Like, after that, it just got, for me, it was scary when it's like the woods and it's like Jason's more real. The first one with his mother is the best because it's everything I love. It's like over the top. It's camp. Kevin Bacon's hot. You know, like Jason's mom at the end, that whole speech, like where Betsy Palmer just goes from 0 to absolute batshit in 30 seconds, and like if that cabin was a ham sandwich, she ate it completely and regurgitated and turned it into ham pate and ate it again. Like, it's just it's very campy, and as a teenager I really gravitated toward that. But Elm Street was good, but my mom checked me out of school so we could go see Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh.
And at the
that
time,
was respectable to her?
It got really good reviews from Siskel and Ebert.
Oh, respectable from that end. Okay.
Yeah, like there were
sorry, not that mothers of the 80s are necessarily.
Friday the 13th was drugs and sex and titties and like.
Sure, got it.
It was just like my mom hated it, but she didn't want me to watch those. Like when I started reading Stephen King, I was told you can read any Stephen King except Carrie because you're only 10. Okay. And I read my first Stephen King because I wanted to go see Firestarter with Drew Barrymore because I idolized Drew Barrymore at that age. And my mom was like, no, I don't want you to see that one. Because she had read Firestarter. And she was like, I don't want you to read that. I think she was afraid of a 10-year-old girl with psychic powers who basically didn't put up with shit, which, to be fair, like, it was probably not a good influence on me to watch Firestarter. But so that I bought that. Like, I went to my grandparents. It was $6 in the paperback rack at 7-Eleven. And my uncle was watching me for the day. This is when he worked at the stereo store. They had moved him from a store in Louisiana all the way to Central Texas because he sold more stereos than anyone. So he was making like, in commission, like thousands of bucks a week in 1980s money. And I'm like, I need $10 right now. He's like, okay, sure. So I bought Firestarter and read it. So by the time I got home, I'm like, I read it. And my mom was mad because that was the one she didn't want me. She had no problem with me reading like Salem's Lot, The Shining, Carrie, and Firestarter. I think with Carrie, it was partly she didn't want to explain a period to me at that point. So, oh mother. So I read that one. And my dad would take me and my brother separately. Just me and my dad or my brother and my dad, like we would go on these once a month. He would take us to town and we'd go have lunch, we'd go see a movie, he'd buy us something. And he took me to the bookstore. He's like, get whatever you want under $10. So I got Carrie. And I read that shit. And we had an hour drive. I was halfway through that book. So when we got home, she couldn't stop me. Anyway, rebellion. But anyway, long story short, Return of the Living Dead, which she hated because it was very gory and
Sorry, we were still on Zorana.
very naked. And I wanted action figures for Return of the Living Dead. And Zorana was like trash. So there you go. And that got me into G.I. Joe and the Dreadnoks. And I like Cyndi Lauper with the red hair. And my mom hated it, the whole look of her.
Cyndi was great.
I mean, to be fair, it was a lost cause, Mom. My uncle, who lived in the village of Greenwich Village, New York, worked at Fire Island, bartended, danced at a few go-go boy places.
Nice. Uncle was free.
He was the best. So he would come home out, after Fire Island would close for the season, broke with nowhere to live because it's New York, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
well, I'm getting
also because he time shared, like they would do like that thing where it's like sublet, where it's like 6 months of the year you've got a cheap place to live because those people are in the Hamptons, and then you have to wait for them to go back to the Hamptons, and he would always have to divest his stuff. So I think I was 8 or 9 when he gave me his Rocky Horror Picture Show soundtrack. So, and my mom was like, just it's fine, it's just a record. So anyway,
I think the echo's back. Heads up. I don't know why. Hello.
I'm not hearing one.
No?
No, I keep getting. It sounds like a phone ringing every so often.
Okay, whatever.
But none of my phones are ringing, so who knows?
How's the chat doing? I haven't been looking.
They are entertaining themselves, and we did get Rhea here, and she is mentioning the song. Yeah, exactly. That is the song. Yeah. So anyhow, but yeah, and that was G.I. Joe. Like suddenly there was like this punk rock badass chick.
Yep.
Who had pink hair, and then the next year was like Jinx and Chuckles. Oh my God, Chuckles was my first action figure crush, I think.
Really?
Yeah, which like, go figure. He's everything technically I don't like in a man, but you have to get that out of your system, preferably in 5th grade. But it took a little longer.
Let's explore this for a second, aside from Monchhichi. But what was it? What was it? Was it the shirt? Was it, everybody else was in fatigues and he's chilling in his short sleeve Hawaiian shirt?
Was that he looked a little bit like Steve Trevor from Wonder Woman comics.
Okay.
A little bit of that, because I definitely always had Wonder
Physical
Woman
archetype.
happening.
Got it.
It was the shirt, like, because it was bright, it was colorful. He had real pants. It wasn't fatigues. Yeah, and the card art, he was just pretty hot on the card art.
Okay, all right.
It
Very
was
cool.
I mean, like I had my and we had the USS flag and the last storyline and I had like the story I made, there was a love triangle between Chuckles, Zorana, and her brother Xandar. And the last story I remember playing as a kid was Zorana interrupting Xandar and Chuckles' wedding on the USS flag. They came in. I never resolved that one. She kidnapped Chuckles at the end of it. And as far as I know, when the hurricane hit and wiped out the shoebox that she kidnapped him to, that I put them in to go back to later, they're probably still there buried under mud. So I guess in the end, Zorana won. By default.
I love it.
Yeah, I was, like, some people are like, I don't understand why other kids thought I was. I know why they thought I was wearing it. It's okay. It's just funny when they try to get me in their MLMs now. It's like, yeah, no, Bestie doesn't have it. But yeah. So, but that was for me. G.I. Joe didn't really take off until it got weird. Like, because then I was like, I can see myself here. And it's like when everyone's like Cobra Law, that's when I checked out. I was like, girl, that's when I checked in. Like that was when I was like,
Yeah.
what? Creepy, weird snake people, underground mountain city. I'm in.
For me, it
Like,
was I was into that too because they were that, but also just like how do you go from fighting Cobra and Destro for years? What's that next challenge, right? What will require this level of expertise and whatever vehicles?
yeah.
And yeah, so like this total like, hey, it was Cobra Law all along,
Yeah.
right? There was this bigger alien threat. Like to me,
Exactly.
that just it was the ratcheting up of the
It
threat
clicked,
that
but
I
it also
appreciated.
sort of made sense. The weird sciencey stuff Cobra had that didn't otherwise make sense in this otherwise realistic military toy line.
Right. How did they get that technology, you mean?
Yeah,
That kind of
exactly.
thing? Yeah.
Cobra.
It wasn't just Scottish arms brilliance.
Yeah. There's a whole underworld. And I don't know, that just appealed to me. Like I liked the weirdness of it. I liked the sci-fi of it. Also, growing up in Louisiana, there are definitely cities out in the middle of nowhere hidden full of mutant monkey people. Like it makes sense. The Ewok guy is from the part of Louisiana that's not far from where I grew up, and there are a lot of
That's just him working through his childhood of
that's all it
somehow
is. Like
experiencing them.
I can't watch like swamp people without my accent kicking in.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's something. But yeah, no, it's funny whenever every so often Jason will like drop some phrase that's really particular to Southwest Louisiana. I'm like, oh my God. Every time he's like long yop and everyone's like, what? And it's like long yop, it's like a little something extra you didn't expect.
Yeah.
And anyway, it's just funny. Like, but I think that also sort of was why I gravitated toward all the weird stuff, because we lived in a weird part of the world. So, and then we moved to Texas, which is also its own little weird corner of the world. So,
I definitely made, so you were mentioning earlier, back to the art. This was a combination. The original one that you gave me a couple of pages, and I was like, well, I feel like we would have finished. Like originally, this guy was just on his own page.
Yeah, he was.
These were on their own page, kind of doing this ring around the rosy Monchhichi caterpillar kind of thing, and then these two were dancing. And I just figured, like, oh man, we could probably fly through those a little quickly.
Oh, probably.
So, but also, I wanted to do more than one.
Oh my gosh.
So
I now need to find the Love Boat action figures. Thank you. I've been trying to justify this forever.
Is it Mego?
I don't think it was Mego. It was some other company, I think.
What format?
It's 3 3/4.
Oh, no kidding. Oh,
yeah, cool. I know. I remember as a kid I wanted Julie and Vicky. But I want an Isaac for sure.
Soon we'll be making.
I picked up an extra Glamour Gals party play set that was incomplete and missing stickers and stuff, because I'm gonna make some decals for it and turn it into like the swanky bar for my Glamour Gals. Now that I have space to display everything, I'm gonna actually be able to put my Eternia together, you guys. I'm excited. Well, I mean, we have to wait for the contractors to finish with my studio. But I think cute. I mean, my little setup is
great.
This right here is specifically for the stream today, because plastic shelves not so much. But I've got finally put my Crystal Castle up after like a decade of it being in a box.
Nice.
These are all mostly, and there's my Glinda. Thank you, Adam from Highly Articulated, all the way from Canada. But I finally got my Holy Grail Darcy Minton Box Fashion Fragrance Darcy, last Darcy doll Kenner made.
Very cool.
My Annie doll. I need to finish my Annie collection. Knickerbocker. My Matt for Christmas got me the Strawberry Shortcake Butterfly. Minton box, everything, but it's been opened, so whenever I take it out and put it together, not a big deal.
My mom may have some Annies. I'll take a look for you to see.
Yeah, take a look. Let me,
she's a doll collector. She was a doll. I mean, she's still around, but back in the day, she collected a bunch of stuff, which included sometimes, toys, essentially, like some Mego.
Yeah, well, I mean, like doll, like that's part of how it happened.
No, totally.
Like
I'm just
why
saying,
I didn't move out of toys because my grandfather. I mean, was mentioning this to Matt. He's like, "Oh, like us." I'm like, "Shh." But my grandfather on my mom's side, they had a garage at one point, a carport that became her doll room, and it was just full. When she passed, I only wanted one of her dolls, and I have it out in the garage / soon to be studio storage. It's gonna have to be cleaned up because it was stored with my uncle, who was a heavy smoker, and of course, so it has some smoke and it's porcelain, so it's gonna need to be cleaned. But I'm sure if I can't find a tutorial on how to clean it up properly, I can find somebody in the state of Oregon or California to bring it to.
To clean it?
Yeah, to give it a proper cleaning because it's a porcelain doll. It has actually rooted hair. It was Franklin Mint. Like
Yes, that's what I mean by my mom's stuff. Like that was her.
Yeah, she would buy the expensive, $200-$300 dolls in the 80s, like. But and my grandfather
not Franklin Mint, but she had some stuff.
Gave up having a covered area for his car so that she could display all of her dolls and buy more. So
that's what Matt was like, just like us.
Yeah.
Oh, this Monchhichi's way too orange. Oopsie.
Yeah. Last time I hung out with her, about a year before she passed, we sat out on the porch outside because there's no garage carport anymore. We were sitting out there, and it was right after I bought on eBay I had to rebuy my Very Happy Home for Strawberry Shortcake because my parents had me give away all of my Strawberry Shortcake dolls to some poor kid in our neighborhood. Which, I don't want it to sound rude to the poor kid, but I didn't want to give any of that stuff away because it's not you don't need it anymore. It's like, mother, why do you keep telling me to buy all these Star Wars figures mint on card if I don't need it anymore? And then I would just open those up and play with them. So anyway, Mom. If she weren't dead, she would regularly get phone calls of me like, and how could you do this? None of the real issues. It would always be the toys and the books and stuff.
Soon we'll be making another.
I really thanks, chat. Thanks, titular heroine. Now I need the entire Love Boat action figure line that I never got as a kid. That and that Daisy 3 3/4 Mego figure. It was always around, and then one day it wasn't. And I was like, I should have got that. She could have hung out
funny.
With Leia.
Late 70s, early 80s stuff adapted from TV shows for some reason was different in my childhood brain than stuff from movies. Maybe it's because I saw it more regularly, more often, right?
Yeah.
Like Buck Rogers, the Charlie's Angels, Dukes of Hazzard, Chips was I guess it just felt a little bit more common because it was on TV that I had a hard time sometimes separating that from the toys. I was
a lot of it also, I mean, not to be rude, but a lot of it was really mundane.
Yes, that's right. Cruise ship.
I mean, you need
police biker.
Yeah, exactly. And as deeply as I wasn't into Star Wars, it didn't. Yeah, it didn't mesh. I would get Adventure People because some of those would have, I've got all 21 Star Wars figures. It's 1979. I want more. Well, let's get the Adventure People or the Tonka Play People race car driver because that guy has a helmet. He's all in white. This could be a weird rebel guard or a special. This is Boba Fett until mine gets here from Kenner. And then you would get the figure he was standing in for, and then he would be a different character. Some of them translated, but Ponch and John, not so much. But as an adult, it's easier to sort of mesh all of that together, which is why I have too many reaction figures, frankly.
I've been talking on every stream I can since this has been come out about those Micronauts figures.
I'm excited about. I had the yellow, the clear guy, the robot ones. I had the yellow guy, and my brother had the green guy. And I tried to find some of those during the pandemic. I was like, I should have a Micronaut or two, and I'm like, why? No, you don't even have all the pieces. Why are you charging $100 for it? And it's and you're the cheapest one for that one.
Right.
All the vac metal is gone. It's just crappy, open, clean plastic. You're a jackass.
Yep.
I can't. They won't let me make an offer for $5. So I'm excited, and I'm probably gonna pick up some of those. I'm also kind of excited about the Silverhawks in 3 3/4.
Those look really good. Like so that's the thing with reaction. I know a lot of people are like, what is this? I'm not going to spend on this. But they really channel that vintage 70s, 80s toy. Like that's by design. The all the artwork and everything, it looks like Kenner Star Wars figures, and it's meant to. So like when people are like don't understand that, then I get why they're so confused about
I think sometimes some of the things I hear is like, it doesn't look enough like it. It's like, yeah, they're doing a property from the 1990s. Like, it doesn't look like it because it's a 90s outfit. Like, I remember some of the Buffy the Vampire stuff that Reaction did. People were like, this just doesn't look right. It's like, because she's literally in a crop top and some like, you know, biker short / you know, like, this is what we wore in the 90s. She's dressed like the 90s. It feels off because even though they're doing sort of an 80s vibe, like they're staying true to the actual the fashions or whatever. And if they're not for you, they're just not for you. I don't get the I feel some mad hate at McFarlane when he releases something like the 40-year-old virgin toy, because it's like, in my humble opinion, that's soulless. I think love them or hate them as far as Super 7 goes, I feel like there's some real love behind a lot of the stuff that they release.
Tons of
I feel like when they release stuff, they're doing what they can to try to release a cool toy. Do they succeed every time? No. But it doesn't feel as calculated as McFarlane when he releases 40-year-old virgin or whatever. Like, I don't know, it's just a different vibe for me, and I make no apologies. And I mean, I've picked up a ton of McFarlane Superpower stuff in the last few weeks. So
Super 7, since its inception, was all about tying into that nostalgia from whatever, right? Period. So it was all about nostalgia. It was all about taking the things that we loved as young people that weren't getting the love in the modern, you know, toy world or product world, because they do shirts and stuff too. And bringing it back, but then, you know, but trying to quote unquote elevate it in the way of like, hey, this is ironically a really like a dorky little plastic thing from the 80s, but it's also like artistic. And you know, it's like it's this object now. And so that's always been their thing. And McFarlane, not so much. I mean, McFarlane, and not to say that he's not a fan of like those horror properties or 40-year-old virgin or whatever, but it does come across. I hear what you're saying. It comes across different because that's not what they've done, and I don't think they know how to do that as well. There's like a disconnect when you're like comic book, Spawn, you know, like. And then
what I will say is, despite some of the hate that Brian Flynn gets, and some of it is deserved. Don't get me wrong. I'm not an apologist. I'm not he's the perfect guy. Let's forgive all of his mistakes. That
I'll play that role.
But what I will say is McFarlane has, from the day one, like, you know, back when it was just making Spawn toys and Party Angela, if you will. It's always been this attitude of, I know what's best, and it still feels like that with Superpowers, where you have so many people saying, we want Zorana, we want Zatanna, we want Black Canary, we want Vixen, we want you know, more than just Wonder Woman. Like at this point, if you were to send superpowers, just give us a Supergirl and a Batgirl, people would be happy. Like, you know, with superpowers, also like this is my one. You know, like as deep as we're gonna go this morning on it. I think all he actually has to do for that line that he's not doing now is go back to the original Kenner concepts that never got made.
Sure.
If he went in and did like the Supergirl, like the Teen Titans, you know, Raven, Starfire, Wonder Girl, Changeling, because that's what Beast Boy was in the 80s. He was a changeling. He was not Beast Boy. But if he would just go do a Lois Lane figure, like all of the figures that they originally wanted to do when they got that, if he just hit 2 or 3 of those every couple of waves, like people would step back and stop being so like, what is he doing? Because he would then be fulfilling exactly what the nostalgia part of that brand is, what most of us are wanting from it. Like when he did the Black Manta and the 70s Brainiac with the tights and the, like, I was excited. Those are the figures that Guy Gardner, like, that's what I want. Like, I get you need to do 3,000 Batman. Like, I understand the economics of toys. Like, you have to do a lot of Batman and Superman. Gotta do the Jokers. Like, I get it. I joke about it, but I also understand this is what the retailers want on the shelves. They want Superman. They want Batman. That's what most people are buying. But you got to throw the, you know, like the adult collector portion of it, you got to throw us some bones if you want us, because you have to have all of the markets to survive in this, in the current retail reality of toy companies. So that's my little shtick. It was a totally odd choice, but I mean, like, they didn't pegworm here. Online, they pegworm. You can find the Batman Who Laughs really cheap online. Can't find that one in stores anywhere near me.
Yeah.
So
there's a disconnect, I think, with that line in particular. I think there's a disconnect in that you're bringing back this thing that was like the cool thing, right?
Yeah.
The shit, if you will, the bee's knees back in the day for a group of people back when toy buying was very much like 3 3/4 cool little action feature. Like it was really a clearly defined market, right? And a style of toy. So that said, of course you're going to have like the Doles and others who are like, and yourself who are like, I want that thing again, continue it. But then they're in their thinking that you said they need everybody. They're like, well, but what if we could infuse the cool new characters of DC into that? And the problem is, well, the problem is, like you just said, the Batman Who Laughs or whatever. The problem is like there's not a lot of overlap there, and you're trying to please 2 very different groups with one thing. And I always wondered, like, if I were a modern collector who wants the Batman Who Laughs in toy format, would I want to go backwards to an old format? And that feels odd. Like I think you're really, really, throwing a Hail Mary there and hope that it works. Right. So I totally get what you're saying. The problem is I don't know if the amount of Superpowers fans that are actually still going to go back and buy new Superpowers toys, like fans from back in the day who still want them now, is enough to satisfy the kinds of sales that McFarlane is either used to or needs from Avengers.
And I get that. That's why I personally like. Anytime he throws in another Batman, I'm just like, throw that Batman in. But he's got
the balance. It's finding that balance, and who knows? I don't know how hard that is because I don't do it, but
and neither does he. So there you go.
Real quick, I just noticed that this little Monchhichi over here at the end is channeling some Bakshi / Rankin Bass Bilbo Baggins in his style of clothing.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
I don't know.
I like the little baseball. Oh gosh, that's a baseball outfit.
How cute is he? I had a Monchhichi that looked just like this, had that thing, so that's why I colored him that way. He didn't have the full head to toe. I think he only had the shirt, but the cap with a red bill.
So. Yeah, and now that you say that, I remember seeing that Monchhichi, and I totally did not go back. Anyway,
Monchhichi.
Anyone looking to my Monchhichis for historical accuracy, I apologize.
Oh, there's none in here too with the colors. Although there was a period where I know they were making like different colored fur and stuff, but I did that just because I thought it would be more fun and visually interesting to have different Monchhichi.
Yeah, I kept
This
fur
is
pretty much all
my
the same
self-portrait.
color. I'm gonna give them different blends for their skin because I can.
This is sort of my my colored-ish guitar or bass that I was playing for a while. This was meant to be a ukulele. I think U is for ukulele in the original art that you gave me.
Yeah.
But I love that it's 4 strings for like a bass. So
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was supposed to be a ukulele, but
it was.
It was the 80s. People didn't know what a ukulele was other than that guy from Hawaii. He did a cover of
Tiny Bubbles?
Yeah.
Tiny Bubbles. Who was that?
That was the extent of most people's knowledge of a ukulele. And then we had what's her face's Colleen Ballinger's apology for being weird and gross with the ukulele, and it took the ukulele. Well, there was a period in the 90s where I lived at this big art house full of people who thought they were artists, and mostly were just pretentious. But one of them would do all these ukulele covers and put them on. I wonder if those are still on YouTube. I should go and make fun of them again. Anyway, their ukulele cover of Guns N' Roses' "Welcome to the Jungle" was not the it was not what they thought it was. It was exactly what you expect from a 36-year-old felt art student named Britannia instead of Brittany.
Last month, I actually was learning some Prince songs on ukulele. So
see, I can see Prince on ukulele, and there are some people who could probably do "Welcome to the Jungle" and like deconstruct it enough to make it work on the ukulele, but Britannia was not one of those. Like, oh, Britannia.
Was Britannia a Joe Lies type?
She
you familiar with that reference?
No,
Joe Lies. Oh, Joe Lies was from the boombox and the Genesis in Your Eyes. What movie was that?
Yeah.
Overcoat.
I have not seen that. You'll have to send that one to me later.
Wait, you have. I know you have. What's his name? The 80s. Say Anything. No, is it Say Anything?
Say Anything?
Is it Say Anything?
I've seen Say Anything.
Okay, so they go to a party.
Yeah.
And there's I forget her
yeah,
name, but she's singing her song. Joe lies when he cries. Anyways.
Yeah, it's a little. It was, I don't know. It was just like somebody thought they were doing high art, and it was just not. Like,
okay, got it.
There was too much coke and too much wine and too much pretense for that to like.
What city was this?
The way she intended. Huh?
Where were you living when this was happening?
It was this big house in Portland. It was like 6
Portland.
Rooms. 6 rooms with like 50 people living in it at different times. Like,
got it.
My rent was $100 a month.
Mm-hmm. There was a couple of those here in Oakland.
Yeah. I'm sure at some point or another, one of those rooms was somebody who had left Oakland for cheaper rent.
Sure, yeah, no, 100%. That's right.
And, yeah, we got a lot of those. We got a lot of people from the art scene in Chicago. A lot of.
Sorry, Matt, I'm not talking about you directly, but she just fully described your life's journey.
Right.
That's for somebody.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, there's like it was just a lot. It was a lot, and it's just not an environment I should have to be in. So I got out.
Be right back. I'm gonna go grab a pen.
No worries. Let's see. Excellent. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Exactly. See, no, and please don't take me wrong. I've seen some great stuff happen on ukulele. It's just never in Portland at your house. Never. Like, that's never a good time. Especially when the person thinks they're making high art and then puts it on YouTube and their first comment is like, girl, tune your ukulele. And she's like, it's supposed to be out of tune. Uh-oh.
I brought it for this guy.
For the kids. Yeah.
No, for this guy. Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
But I didn't mean to go get a pen. Let's see. Here, you rock there, buddy. You be my reference.
Yeah, it's okay. If it's a Monchhichi playing the ukulele, I'm sure it'll be fine.
Oh, it fits perfectly.
They're very talented.
That's rad.
But yeah, I don't know.
Oh, you can't see that.
I've seen a lot of bad ukuleles, so I have a hard time at this point. Not seeing somebody. I went on a date. Okay, like we'll tell this story, right? I went on a date one time with this person. I'm not calling them a person is generous. They were kind of like a barnacle on the butt of like society, but we'll call them a person. And so anyway, they were super, like when we set the date up, they're like, I'm very broke. I can't really afford a lot. Why don't you could come over and hang out and, like I'll make dinner. And I'm like, ugh. But I did it. And the food was okay. Like, not a bad cook. And then after dinner, we're sitting there and I'm having a drink because at this point I need a drink to survive whatever is about to happen. And he breaks out a ukulele. I'm just like, uh-oh. Do we lose ground? Uh-oh. There's his hand. I see your hand. Okay. So he's not been eaten, so we're good there. All right, there's his hand. He's alive. Okay. Maybe we just quickly remove that from the screen. Oh. Oh, okay. Device is disconnected. So it sounds like the Lord of Hell are speaking through this audio right now. See, that's what happens. You bring a ukulele into the room and things go awry. There we go. Perfect. A-okay, guys. All right. Continue. Anyway, so he broke out a ukulele and started serenading me, and that was when I'm like, I need to get out of here. Because it was really bad. Like, it was not good. And so I said, oh gosh, I'm feeling not so good. And I'm like, I should go home. And anyway, I did not because the ukulele, I was like, this is not right. So, because if you have to pretend that they sound good, then you should not date them. Oh, Brick is back. There we go. Excellent. And you're back.
There it is.
Excellent.
Are you
so you bring a ukulele into the room and look what happens.
There you are.
Anyway, yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me? And the white zone is for the immediate loading and
now I can.
Passengers. There's absolutely no stopping in the white zone. Don't start with your white zone shit again, Betty. We all know what you're. Never mind. You don't finish that one. I think you can say that on YouTube anymore anyway. Anyhow. But yeah, so. See, you brought a ukulele in and look what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Science. Technology.
Wow. Hold on. What?
I'm not even trying to match these poor little guys' clothing. I'm dressing them like I used to dress myself in the 80s, poorly. think my favorite was the time I was like, my mom was like, you cannot wear red with green. I'm like, but it's Christmas colors. That's not how it works. Anyway, so I did leave the house in red pants and a green shirt. And I paid the price because I had some mean girls in my class, and when you've got a mean girl at home you call mom, listen to her because it was a foreshadowing of what happened at school. It was the day they called me Christmas Jones all day. Oh, I guess it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas around here. So anyway.
Chrissy Snow.
Yeah, right? I wish. That would have been better. Santa Claus coming to town anytime. Oh, God. All of them. All of them. It's okay, though. I've seen all of them on Facebook, and they have not aged well. And several of them have horrible children, so it all works out. But yeah. Red and green, not so much. Echo. And not just my outfit back in 3rd grade.
Oh man, the floor is messy over here.
Uh-oh. I didn't see it, so you're fine. Mine is actually no, it's not really messy now that I've got all this space behind me. When I was in that apartment and had like this much to work in, it was total mess. I'm surprised the cats haven't started trying to knock the door down yet. Last time I did one of these live streams where I closed the door so they can't rampage in the background. At one point, the smallest one started throwing himself against it. Like, I will get in there. I swear. So.
Are you going to do anything? Yeah, I don't really know what else to do. I guess I'm just cleaning up the lines on this because I ended up like... Oh, man. I don't know what's going on over there. I can hear myself in the other room. So obnoxious.
Yeah, I'm just... sort of picking at it, just bouncing around, enjoying, like, because I'm not doing a short or anything, so I don't have to, like, be methodical about my, the order of things. Kind of just play around. This is how I color things whenever I'm out filming it for the internet. And so, sort of bounce around. If I were doing it as a short, I would have started with this little Monchhichi in the back and just worked my way all the way to the front, and then the guitar, and then the clothes, and then the Monchhichi's face last. And I'm just doing his face right now because I want to do his face right now.
Yeah, I've heard you. Whoa. I don't want to hear myself. That's really loud. Anyway, you can't hear anything weird, do you?
The last thing sounded kind of weird, like super loud, but otherwise, no. Seems okay. On live streams, I've been trying to get out of the box, as it were, because I didn't have to. I just, it's a different experience. People are here to listen to us babble. Oh, there's the echo. And it sounds like a countdown on a spaceship. T-minus 17 until we land on Delta 17. It's in the quadrant next to the supernova that went supernova 2 weeks ago. We lost an entire crew and ship. Here in Relax on Space, nobody knows what happened to them. And the ship is called the Event Horizon. Advance at your own peril.
Can you hear me talking right now?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. You don't hear an echo?
Not anymore. There was for a
Okay.
second, and there was like this sounds like spaceship / Price is Right.
Okay. This is what we're doing for now then.
It'll work. So.
Anything more Monchhichi talk that you wanted to cover?
I mean, like, I just wanted sort of your story and some perspective on it. Like, it's all in my head, basically, and I don't know. You actually have like more of a connection than me, like
Yeah.
not getting one as a kid. And there's some cultural stuff that like I will never understand. So yeah.
With like how Monchhichi is, you mean?
Yeah, just like the cultural, it's a
Right.
there's a cultural aspect to all, like
Yeah,
I've
no,
been,
totally.
Jay and Dan Larson have been doing GI Joe for Toy Geeks, right? So I've been doing all this research,
Mhm.
because I'm the paid researcher for the pod. Go watch that, guys. It's on YouTube now. Anyway, but sort of seeing how GI Joe was originally it was in a lot of different countries, but it wasn't GI Joe. It was Action Force in the UK, and
Right.
it was integrated into an existing line. In Brazil, it was something different, which is where we get Glenda. And a couple of, like, it was really common for all these different countries to, in the early days anyhow, to sort of adapt GI Joe to the sensibilities. And then
Right,
as it
right.
went on, because of the cartoon hitting markets, it all sort of became GI Joe and ended up very homogenized by the end of it.
Right.
So it was sort of, originally it was adapted culturally and then colonized into GI Joe. Whereas with Monchhichi, they attempted sort of that here, where they sort of tried to adapt it to our cultural sensibilities, and it didn't quite land.
Yeah.
But yet it has thrived. Global. I mean, like it's really. I want to say Germany, and I might be thinking of the wrong.
I've heard
country
it's
in
big,
Europe.
like Germany, France, and
Yeah, there are a
Belgium.
lot of Europe, and it was big there before it even came to
Yes.
US. So it's like I believe it's Germany, maybe, where it was huge in Germany before we even got it in the US, and it remains huge to this day. But also, as far as I can tell, in Germany, there was no attempt to assimilate it into sort of like a sensibility that, German kids could get. It was this cute, again, it was the cute little thing that you cuddle and you buy clothes for,
Right.
and you love it like a toy.
Right.
So it's just interesting to me that, like, and
Well,
that's,
I think.
oh, sorry.
Well, no, I was just gonna. I think that all speaks to what we know. What's kind of like well covered approach in the 80s to toys and selling toys, right? I think they
Yeah.
just figured, well, this is how we sell toys. We create a story, we get kids on the story, they love it. So therefore they're going to want to buy not just one, but the entire world, every single character, whatever and so I think a lot of it has to do with that, maybe less so like because, we don't like the story that is being told with these characters in another country. I think in many ways it was just like, oh wait, there's no story to this thing. How do we? That's never going to work, in their minds in the United States. So let's create a thing. And then it just happened to be that when they created a thing, whoever was in the room and created it used this very use a template, like you said, Smurfs. Maybe let's copy and paste Smurfs. And so I think that's super unfortunate. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And I will say that even when it works, like in the case of like Power Rangers, right? I generally, I'm not a fan. Or the one of the few cases I think where it did work for me, like truly work for me, would be like, and continues to, is Robotech. Like for some reason, the way they chopped up that narrative, I still think, I do think Macross is better, but the Robotech narrative that they crafted, I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And the way they kind of tied together multiple properties, I actually like, even in 2025. But, you take your Power Rangers and like, they just took all the
they added in a bunch of elements that I don't appreciate. That said, a bunch of kids, or a lot of, when I say kids, because compared to us, they are kids,
Right.
but a lot of people love. So I'm not going to take that away from them. But for me, like, oh man, I love Sentai. I love
Right.
what they were doing with these things in Japan more than I love what became Power Rangers.
Yeah.
So I think that's just like, hey, we want to sell these cute little things in the United States. And for some reason, someone's wisdom said we need to do more than, and it was kind of whack.
And it was a case where probably more was too much.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
I mean, like, look at them. They're just like, they're cute.
Yeah.
Like, what more do you need? Like,
but I think that's the one thing that occurred to me sort of with the Monchhichi ABCs as opposed to the cartoon is there's no lore here, but there's some, I don't want to call it morality, but there's like ethos. There's a, I'll just grab one really quick since they're right here.
Sure. But it's like, you can even see it at the bottom of our thing.
Yeah, Monchichis are excellent gardeners. Their favorite crop is happiness. They grow enough happiness for the whole world to share. And then H is for holding. Holding on to each other's tails is the way of traveling. Monchichi like the best. That way they never get lost. Like there's this basic sweetness to it.
Yes.
That like is really as an old person who's going to die soon. The sweetness is really appealing. Mm-hmm. And sort of this focus on like kindness and generosity of spirit, not necessarily like let me give you all this money, but like let me give you affection, let me give you caring. That I feel like, especially watching sort of as too many, in my opinion, of the American cartoon. Glad I didn't spend the money it was only $25 to get the complete series, but I'm glad I didn't because I'm, other than this video, I would not revisit it. I'm trying to get out of having things just to have them. But I feel like, I don't know. I feel like that's sort of what was missing from what's in the 80s was sort of the kindness of it. And ironically, that's part of what was baked into it. And somehow they missed that. They missed putting the kindness in. If they had Smurfified it, but sort of kept that kindness to it, I think it might have worked.
Yeah, it's like kindness and sweetness was maybe a little challenge. It's weird, though, because I don't know. Like, we talk about Shirt Tales. That was super sweet. It's not like it wasn't sweet.
But they did still have like a super vehicle where sometimes they had to go fight crime.
There was the action and
there was still like action. There were villains. There was conflict, and it was, to me, that was the least interesting part of the Shirt Tales. Like the cartoon never quite. I had Kip the kangaroo. I had a stuffed one, and I had all of the little PVCs. They didn't do Kip and PVC because she came out after they'd ended that line. But the cartoon was, very focused on that. And it's kind of like, I would watch it because I like seeing Pammy the panda and Kip the kangaroo. And, but I didn't necessarily like the cartoon because it had and it's weird because Gargamel and Smurfs, like I didn't mind that conflict at all. But that was also part of the basic story there, whereas Shirt Tales originally were just, again, sort of like Monchhichi, these cute animals with shirts that said things that were on greeting cards. And it just, I don't know, like, I think that's part of why Shirt Tales didn't probably last as long, as you're trying to craft this narrative around it that doesn't vibe with what the actual product is. And I get, again, like it's, I don't know, it's like a really big sort of thing to try to deconstruct and figure out, like, why did this thing not work in the 80s? And
well, I will say this, like, I don't know. I don't know if it's a matter of like it wasn't enough for the bottom line or whatever to feel worth it to them, but like, I think there's a world where Monchhichi could exist as just the toy.
Right.
And you went in, you saw these cute things, and these preschoolers were just like, hey, I want that. That's cute. I want to sleep with that, or that's fun. and I'll whatever have fun creating a story. It'll be my buddy, and just let it be without having to be like, no, this is the story
Right.
that these live in. But I do think maybe they were just like, yeah, but we can't sell at the volume that we want to sell
Right.
with that kind of toy. Because like we were talking about with Smurfs, like those things, it did exist in the United States for a long time before the cartoon came out.
Yeah. But the
And
cartoon built upon what sort of already, because it was a comic book as well. Like, I
I
think it
don't know.
started as a comic book, and it started for sure as drawings by, I think it's Peyo is his name.
Yeah, Peyo.
And Gargamel and sort of the basics of it all existed. They actually, and
It's Russian, right?
I think he might have been, but I believe my memory is, and it's been way too long since I revisited Smurfs at some point, probably. But they ironically took off. I want to say originally like in France and Germany.
Yes, and Belgium.
But Gargamel was in Gargamel and Azrael were part of the original cartoon, the comic book, comic strip, comic pieces. There were humans in it that were Johann and I think Sebastian,
Oh,
maybe.
yeah, a little blonde kid, right?
Yeah, the blonde kid, and then the knight.
Yes, and the
And
knight with the
they
black
did the
hair.
Smurfs and the Magic Flute movie that they brought over from
That's
Europe
right.
and dubbed it.
That's right. And they disappeared.
But they did not. Hanna-Barbera did not, and it's fully possible it was a rights thing where it's like those characters were owned or they were created for the movie, so they couldn't use them in the Hanna-Barbera cartoon or whatever. I don't, again, that's if I ever do the Smurfs, I've got a list. Like, I want to do deep dives on this thing. It's just finding the time to do all of that.
Yeah.
Especially when there's probably 30 different videos out there.
It's like, well, I'll let Dan Larson do that. It's one of those things where you're like, somebody else is going to do it.
And there are a lot of people who do videos that, there are several doll lines I would never consider, because there are people who do videos about doll line, like Holly Hobby. I'll actually send you some links for this one doll. Doll lines, not like, but like a lot of the Mattel doll lines she's done these amazing deep dives on. And I watched a Holly Hobby video by this creator. I forget her name, or I would just drop it in chat right now. But really quick. And yeah, Get Along Gang for me worked a lot better than Shirt Tails.
Oh, that's right. Get Along Gang.
After I finish my Shirt Tails miniature collection, I'm gonna start picking up Get Along Gang.
Was the Get Along Gang? Wait, am I mixing it up? Who had the
that
Humphrey
was Montgomery.
Bogart?
Montgomery the Moose.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Shirt
Humphrey
Tails
Bogart. The Humphrey Bogart. What do you call it?
Yeah.
Was Shirt Tails, right?
Yeah, Bogey. Let me see if I can find. Yeah, because I just recently got my Bogey.
Well, I will say, like a lot of these things.
Monkey. See, there he is.
Yes. It was so funny because his voice was like he was like a 55-year-old.
Yeah.
I will say at the end of the day, kind of name some of these. These toys are kind of like your starter toys, if you will, right? These are preschool age to a little bit older, kindergarten or whatever, maybe first grade. But it's like, I think there is, I don't know, I just wonder why people try their best to make these kind of like, I guess, universe or IP out of it. They still do it today, right? With Bluey and with whatever, the Paw Patrol and PJ Masks. But like, I don't know that anybody, well, I don't know, maybe some people do, but I don't go back to these things. Like, I don't need to go back to Monchhichi and know more than just, oh, those are cute, I love them. I don't know that I need to like, what were they thinking? What were they feel like? What action were they involved in? Like, I don't know. It's just kind of like, well, they just were. But
yeah, right. Like, yeah, the lore of it, and again, I'm finding there's not a lot of lore, which doesn't bother. I mean, it's just like building a video around something, you want some substance to it, not like, oh my god, they're cute. So the lack, but I think you're completely accurate. In the 80s, it's just how it was done.
Yeah.
And I think we probably lost a lot of cool properties that could have just existed as toys, if not for the need to turn everything into this, and
Yeah.
we do see it now with like the cinematic universe of, and it's like
Yeah.
nothing should just be a movie. Something's a success, it's instantly going to be a sequel.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, I don't know, like I feel like
All of that is just it's a function of our economic system, right? It's a function of, it's not necessarily like, hey, we want to make something really cool or long. Yeah, I don't know. It's just like at the end of the day, the need for a sequel or whatever is just so that they can milk it a little bit more, while also
it's like we're making money off of Monchhichi, but we can make more. What if there was a cartoon?
right.
What if
Right.
and the official byline from Mattel is that it wasn't selling as well as it had.
Okay.
And they canceled it in 1985. But if you look at Mattel in 1985, that was the year of Masters of the Universe. It was the year Princess of Power launched. It was Barbie was on the upswing again after sort of not, because this is little known. Whenever He-Man hit, Barbie was not top of the pops anymore. She had, they reinvented her around the same time and upgraded her, so her sales were up again. That's why I think the Gem and the Holograms, the Barbie and the Rockers things was so important to them, because they had just gotten Barbie back to a certain level of like being, because for a while Masters of the Universe was Mattel's flagship line, not Barbie anymore. I think that's part of why the girls department was so big on taking She-Ra from them. Because Tila was competing with girls who were going to the boys aisle to get Tila and Evelyn, which is why they wanted to do a girls line. But the concept originally for the girls line from Motu was that it would be on pegs right next to Masters of the Universe. It was not going to be girl coded the way quite as Princess of Power is pink, and that's why I loved it. Like, but the original boys concept for it was a little bit more golden girl, maybe. So, which is sort of not what. But I mean, I think Monchhichi was canceled for low sales, but also Mattel did not own Monchhichi.
Right.
So when you say low sales,
licenses,
right? Licensing fees, like Monchhichi was probably selling well, but they were so invested in this point about their own brands that they owned that like it's not selling well because we're having to give a portion of those profits back to the original creator.
Yeah, it might be selling well, but we're not able to keep as much of it as we want.
We're not making as much money off of it as we do from Masters of the Universe and Princess of Power and Barbie. And
that makes manufacturer resonates.
Mattel is a publicly traded company, so like if you dig deep enough, you can. And I've been trying to find numbers, because a lot of their financial disclosures at the time that are publicly available would say like we've credited so many million of our profits this year to Masters of the Universe.
Right.
So I'm hoping I can find numbers for like how much of their sales was Monchhichi at the time. And because when you're making millions upon millions upon millions off of Masters of the Universe, a solid return on investment on Monchhichi is finger quote low sales. But in my humble opinion, as somebody who's not super greedy, there's a lot more to be said about a slow and steady, dependable product that like has a return on it. Maybe not like into the stratosphere money, but like if you're making a reliable turnaround on it, that's a brand you invest in. That's something you keep going for 20, 30, 40 years, as long as there's a return on the profit. And maybe there's more of a return on the profit if you're not adding an extra licensing fee to pay Hanna-Barbera to create a cartoon for it. Like, I just, that's sort of what interests me about it is like, all because, like I had that off the cuff comment one day in a chat with you, and you were like, well, actually.
Some of us cared, Allison. Some of us cared.
Yeah, right? And then me looking into it thinking, well, maybe more of us would care if like they hadn't been fucking greedy about it and they had like let Monchhichi be Monchhichi instead of trying to make it Barbie light or whatever.
Well, I certainly love this stuff.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. I knew it was somewhere overseas.
Belgium. It was Belgium, not Russian.
So thank you. I appreciate that.
I think I associated it. Well, anyways, because of the magic flute music.
Yeah, but it was big in France and Germany. But it would make sense if it was originally created in Belgium that it would be huge. And I mean, all of my French teachers in Louisiana. This is a little known fact, but you have to take French in elementary school. They just send. I don't know if they still do. At the time, like once a week, somebody would come and teach you French in school. And all of our French teachers that we would get at my school were always from Belgium, which is not quite the same as French. Like Belgium French is a little different. And yeah, one time one of the teachers, they would bring little PVC toys from Belgium or whatever. And you would get those as prizes if you like did well on the French test that week.
That's cool. That was public school?
Yeah, that was elementary school. And then in high school you had to take 2 units. I took German in high school.
I wonder if that's still a thing, but that's cool to sort of acknowledge the cultural heritage of that particular locale.
Because French is pretty heavy and
right.
But I won one of the toys one time. It was a little plastic lion. And in Belgium, apparently, little plastic toys, sometimes you can tell if it's a boy or a girl lion. So it was quite the scandal that there was twig and berries on the bottom of my little lion. The teacher tried to take it from me. I'm like, no, this is mine now, bitch. Give me that. I'm like, nope. Pocketed that. She like sent me to the office. I'm like, great, you can just send my mom and we'll see what my mom has to say about it. So then the next week the French teacher had to have a discussion with us. Like, I'm so sorry, like
about what anatomy?
Yeah, because the toy had like
actual I know. I got that. I'm just like,
but but in Belgium and most of Europe, it's not like that. But in the America,
in most of Europe, they acknowledge that twig and berries exist.
Yeah, like,
right.
How dare you? How dare? And my mom thought it was hilarious, and she took it from me so that she could put it on her shelf and laugh at it and show her friends. Oh my God, look at this! It's great. And thanks, Mom.
That's a perfect example of like kind of what we were talking about earlier with Japanese stuff, of just like the localization of stuff and trying to make it work with the sensibilities here. And it's just, I don't know. I get it to a certain degree, but.
Well, even though, I mean, it's important, like, because people often cite Hello Kitty was like big and huge and like, but Hello Kitty also kind of bombed when they brought it over in the 80s here in the US. It wasn't until the late 90s, early 2000s when the internet kicked in and we could get international, like, let's call her global Hello Kitty, where it was not filtered, because they tried to give Hello Kitty a storyline over here too that she doesn't really have.
You know what? You bring up an interesting thing when you bring up Hello Kitty, that like I definitely got to admit that like my reality in the 80s was probably very skewed, because when you talk about Hello Kitty, like a lot of the folks that I grew up with, many of us who were from Asia, folks of color in general, that like, especially when I think back to like my Oceanside, San Diego friends who were like huge into Hello Kitty, and they weren't all, there were white kids in this that I'm referring to, but it's because it's like they were exposed because of like what either moving from place to place, being stationed in Asia or whatever. And like that was just kind of like, again, to the Monchhichi, that was the cutest game in town. What are these cool little things? We don't have anything as simple as the geometry and the cute faces of, again, back to Kawaii, of Hello Kitty. So it was just that. And then, so I'm just trying to say that in the West Coast and the folks that I interacted with, Hello Kitty was huge to a lot of us, not everybody.
It didn't go
I
away.
wonder if that's also maybe why I leaned into like Monchhichi, but maybe just because of out here, it was maybe a little bit more just sort of glommed onto than maybe other parts of the country. I don't know.
I mean, like, you could still go to Spencer's Gifts at the mall, and they would have like a little Hello Kitty thing, but I don't remember it. It wasn't until the late 90s where suddenly in Toys R Us, I would start seeing, and like I would go to remember going to like Chicago, like in 97, 98, maybe somewhere right in there. And there was like a little Sanrio kiosk shop thing in one of the malls we went to where you could get. So like, I think in urban, urban areas.
Yeah.
There was probably, like, again.
Yeah, because when you say that real quick, I'm just thinking that almost every mall that I've grown up next to has had some Sanrio thing, whether it was a stand or a store. And all the kids in my class, mainly young girls in my class, like I remember just they all had this little eraser or this little pencil pouch or whatever. And so, and of course, nobody, I mean, I remember one kid, Colleen, who's like Irish and Chilean, so not an Asian girl, but I remember her trying to explain to me like the different ones and how like this is Bats Maru and this is their story as far as she knew it, but it was like it didn't matter. Like most of the kids who had it didn't know any of that. It was just like it's a cute penguin.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I don't know.
So I'm just saying, I think my reality is probably skewed, and I wonder if that's because.
Because our mall, all we had was a Hickory Farms kiosk. And,
oh man, Hickory Farms! I remember those too.
Yeah, and go get that sausage. You go get your summer sausage.
Yep.
But we would have kiosks like that, but we didn't have like, again, a lot more rural. I don't know what Jason would have had in Lafayette, but I don't remember a Sanrio kiosk when we would go to Lafayette to go like school shopping and stuff. So, but at this, like probably Baton Rouge or New Orleans might have had one. That we would often go to we go way north to like Alexandria for their mall. But again, that's like obviously the world was far more regional then than it became once the internet took off, which is when Hello Kitty really started popping up everywhere again for me, was once the internet was a reality. Like, I remember going to the podunk town where we grew up, and there was suddenly a Toys R Us, and there was, like Hello Kitty stuff there. So,
the
mall suddenly, there was still KB Toys at the, this is how long ago it was that I did go back, but even then, like, there was post-internet, suddenly there's some Sanrio stuff at the KB Toy.
This is true. You're 100% right. Yeah. Like given the internet, and I think what's enlightening to me, since we're kind of talking around importing properties and localization and stuff, what's really exciting to me is that this current sort of generation of young people who tend to gravitate towards like these animated properties or comics or cartoon are really embracing, and have been for a while, embracing anime. And adults too. And I think a lot of adults now are. So like to think like on Netflix, there's like a crap ton of stuff that hits number one as just like this new anime that's from Japan. And, like things like Demon Slayer, like how big that is among young people. And that excites me. Like, I feel like there's less of a stranglehold by whatever Mattel, Hasbro to create their IP and sell it to young people, and Warner Brothers and whoever else. But we're getting stuff that's just like, oh, let's bring it in from Asia or elsewhere. But ultimately, we don't even really need to change it that much the way we used to. It's just like, well, let's just, let's just direct translation for the most part. Like subs and dubs, for example, dubs have just elevated from what they used to be. But even, more and more, like I know so many young people who refuse to watch dubs because they'll watch anime in Japanese. And like, so to me that is super exciting. And I don't think it's unrelated to the fact that more and more, if you look at like, what's the stuff that's encroaching on Mattel and Hasbro's business right now? It's stuff that is coming out of Japan, SH, that's like a normal thing for people to buy. Figma, Good Smile Company, that's all like a normal thing for, I guess we call it more casual collectors and fans of stuff to buy. And then there's the more like hardcore stuff, collectors who search it out, like myself, who are like, hey, what's coming in from China now? What's the Sun Wukong toy that's coming in? And what's this, Persian inspired armor thing that's going, like, great, gimme. And so now I think that's what we're also dealing with when it comes to Hasbro and Mattel, like them not having the same corner on the entertainment, pop culture, and toy market.
Right.
It's causing a lot of distress, I know, on some people's parts.
I would assume.
But I'm here for it, and I think it's rad and exciting. And maybe in another reality, Monchhichi could have been bigger than it was.
No, and maybe it still will be. Like
right.
Start the Monchhichi revolution.
Hey, on that note, did I show you the Labubu stuff from Pop Mart?
I don't think so.
Okay, let me bring that up because I was just in San Francisco in a mall yesterday, and there's a Pop Mart store. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they import. They do a lot of art toy type stuff, but like on a little bit more accessible. Try to share my screen.
Oh yeah, let me do that.
Scale. So these are like in American malls. They have these things here, but this is a thing.
Show me one of those.
Yeah, this stuff is like a thing that's kind of like that seems to be on trend, I guess, if you will.
Yeah.
Right now, there's a giant one that I saw in the store yesterday. Initially, from looking at it online, I thought it was similar to this guy over here, this big Monchhichi that I have.
Yeah, that's what you sent me, this guy, because you were like, he looks kind of like one of them.
Totally looks like it's the same vinyl head.
Yeah.
I wish I could. Let's see.
Oh, those are cute too.
But like I know folks who've gotten it, like are actively hunting for them.
Wow.
So you'll see stuff like this. But this one, check this out. Oh, come on.
Oh my gosh.
TikTok, I can't show that. Only I'm trying to find a YouTube video because like here, I know exactly where to go. Shout out to one of my favorite channels, Toy Migos. But the other night they shared one of these, and for like, a hot second, these like quote unquote adult toy collectors were all like geeking out on this giant furry thing with a vinyl face. I was like, that's totally Monchhichi. Where is it? Sorry. I should have been a little more prepared for this.
This is sort of off the cut. Oh, kitty.
Dan to Dan. Oh, Allison, if you're not watching Dan to Dan on Netflix, check it out. Warning, there's some triggering stuff in the first episode, but there you go. Check this out.
Oh, look at that.
And he sort of shows, this is Cheney, that tail, I think he's going to show in a second. There's articulation in this thing.
Oh my God.
So mine has an articulated head that you can turn. But beyond that, everything is just kind of loose and floppy. This thing actually has an endoskeleton that like is articulated. So you'll see the arms there. So you can pose it. And then the legs too. And the tail is fully.
Oh my God, that's really cool.
Yeah, and I'm just like, okay, when I look at that thing, I'm like, this is totally
this is Monchhichi, and I think I said that in the chat, and we're kind of chatting about that. But it just seems like now there's an interest in maybe this kind of stuff, and I wonder because this stuff appeals to a broader audience actually more than the superhero toy or the Four Horsemen. So I wonder if we'll be seeing more of that, just like we're seeing more kids accepting and embracing anime. I wonder if we'll see the whole pop cute kawaii kind of thing
I would love to
be a way
I
for
don't know.
toys to sell more.
Like, I will say, again, I love me some lore, but also, like, I kind of like stuff that just gets to be, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I did, you know, like, I've got a couple little Hello Kitty toys, and I found them, and I'm just like, I have no idea what the story is, and I don't care. Like, it's just cute. I like having it. I think she's dressed as a penguin in one of them, and she's like ice fishing. Like, it's an old 2002 toy.
That's brilliant.
But it just kind of, and I think that's sort of why the PVCs appeal. Like, you know, I would do adventures because most of them were Strawberry Shortcake and Smurfs, but I could mix and match them all. You could find one cute little PVC, and like, you didn't know who the character was, but it was the same scale, so like it could come into whatever storyline I was doing. And I'm also cognitive of how much space I have and how much. Now that it's weird, I have all of this space, right? Like this room I'm in right now, my temporary office, like, is double the size of where my office / filming area was. Like, and I haven't unpacked I put a bunch of stuff back into boxes so they could do the window, and I haven't taken it out because I'm like, it's kind of nice just to
have space.
Yeah, like I don't, you know, like I'm not gonna. I was just like, I'm just gonna wait until like the remodel is done before I put a bunch of stuff back out, because I don't need to. Now that I'm gonna have the ability to display stuff, I don't feel this weird need to, you know, be surrounded by it and be able to look at every single thing I possibly can cram into a space.
Oh, totally.
And I feel like the minis, I was like, let me rebuild them because they're small. They'll take up less space. I have so much limited space. And now we have this house, and I'm gonna have a lot of space when we're done. And I was still like, but let me get the little minis. They're small. They'll take up so much less space. Like, we were setting up the living room, and Matt was like, well, do we need shelves? Let's put some books. I'm like, no, let's not. Like, we've got a couple DVD, like shelves for DVDs and stuff, because that's where the TV and stuff is. I'm like, but let's just, when we finish the studio remodel, let's put the books out there. We'll put some library cases in. I know I set up some of my reference library, and I was just like, once the library is actually set up, I don't know how much of this is, you know, and I'm going to start. It's weird. Like, for years, I've had stuff in boxes that I can't access. And I feel like I bought a lot of stuff just so that I would have something to look at, you know, like, and now that I have my whole collection, it's like, I don't know that I need to buy much. I mean, I've still bought a ton of stuff, but it's actually finally, you know, like the Strawberry Shortcake stuff I've gotten, the Glamour Gals, the Darcy doll. It's like actual like end pieces for collections where it's like, once I have these 2 or 3 things, I don't need to buy anything else to complete a collection. Like, my collection is done, and I'm not feeling the need to fill in. So it's really weird having sort of a sense of stability in the collecting of it, where it doesn't feel as like
the manic need to like, let me get this, let me get that. I'll just say, like, when it sounds like you're hitting that point, but if you have this opportunity where you get to start over, right? Consider kind of continuing that line of thinking of, I don't need to necessarily display everything, but like have a display area, and then kind of play museum curator every month or whatever.
I've had to do that for years because of limited space. It's like, time to put this one away so I can put out this, but it's like, I don't know, like, I was looking at a bunch of stuff I bought. I'm not going to name what it is, It's not Origins. I will say that it's not Origins. But there are a couple toy lines I bought that I went all in on. That I'm now like, why did I go all in on that? Like, I don't like the sculpts. I don't like how they looked, but they were $5 and they were cheap and they didn't take a lot of space and they were this. So a lot of that I think I'm going to start. I've got a shipping address for you, Brick. So if a random box of toys shows up, you know what it is.
Oh no. Well, I will say, well, thank you. But also just where I was going with that is like you get to curate, but also like spend that time with that thing, that set up things. Depth kind of over breadth. Or really enjoy it, like remind yourself, like, oh my God, these are rad, how great it was.
Yeah.
And then the fun part is like, okay, now I get to put these away and take out this whole other world of things and just remind yourself kind of like, like, oh, that's why I got this. These are dope. And then, that's where I would love to get to a place where I have a little bit more space like that. Yeah. But most of my stuff has to be in bins until, and then I'm always talking about like, oh, when am I going to have that time to pull that stuff out and play with it? And it feels like it's less and less the case. I'm trying to find that time. So then what I end up doing is like, well, I'll buy new stuff and then I enjoy that for the moment that it's like new, and it's dangerous, right?
It's super dangerous.
Yeah.
That's where I have been.
I don't know. But folks, M is for what else? Monchhichi. Millions and millions of Monchhichi spreading joy to people all over the world. That's what's up. And when Monchhichi want to be friendly, and that's all the time, they rub their thumbs together. It's an ancient Monchhichi custom. So come on, look at that.
That's very cute. I'm gonna put yours because oh my gosh, I'm just looking at the card. I'm like, whoa, how did that happen? I mean, we did start 10 minutes after, but still.
We pulled an Oz Clubhouse.
We did, but also interesting. Everyone's still here, so there you go. This is why I don't worry about when you're here if we go over, because people just stay to make notes. I'm going to quickly put yours up on solo layout just so everyone can see how amazing it looks. That looks really good, Brooke.
Thank you.
Oh, you even printed it on like a tan color, so that's really
I always do that because when you talk about paper, so I've been using like this drawing paper that I have that is off-white, but it also allows me then to highlight, make stuff.
Do the white.
Yeah. There's got to be a reason to have white colored pencils, right? Like to be able to actually see it.
I have some really nice sort of beige and brown paper. My printer hates them, so until I upgrade my printer to use a thicker cardstock that I like, I'm stuck with the white. So.
No, look. Well, the nice thing about the red, as you can see there, things just pop. Like all those colors are popping way more than from mine. They're beautiful. Like I love that first one. The first one in the chain on the top above the guitarist's head. He's super cute.
It's pretty cute. We succeeded in creating some cute little Monchhichis, which is kind of what I wanted. So we'll set those set aside. So anyway, we're gonna wrap it up because it's 2.5 hours almost, you guys. This never happens when I'm at home, when it's just me, because I'm all the time like, oh my God, I'm talking to myself. But when Brick is here, it's like Oz's Clubhouse. So, all right, really quick, and thank you very much. Muchly appreciated. And thank you for hanging out with us the whole time. Really quick, Brick, you've got things happening today, correct?
I do. In 2 hours and roughly 15 minutes, I'm supposed to be with Dre of Father Figures, of the Father Figures podcast. He has let me know he's going to be a little late. So I'm going to start off the show. I'm going to run a little bit through the news and hopefully he'll join us and we'll kind of talk, continuing on what you and I were talking a little bit, because he's super into Japanese pop cultural stuff, Kamen Rider. So I kind of want to talk about how that has, like, we see this sort of like influence on our toy stuff, but also he's he's a dad and he's all about the sort of like geek dad / father figures
Right.
thing. So we'll talk about some kid stuff too. Kind of like what we were talking about Monchhichi for preschoolers.
Right.
Talk about Bluey and some of the other things that
Nice.
that we've noticed and whatever. We're just gonna talk. You know how it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Talk.
I know exactly what that's like.
Yep.
So everyone, if most of you in chat know who Brick is, and probably already follow him. If not, please go check his channel out. There is a link in the description of this video, I think. There's not, but there will be in like 10 seconds after we end the stream. We'll go fix that. And he's got a big cute Monchhichi. Let's see. Tomorrow I have a short because I always have shorts. So please watch that. And then tomorrow, I actually, if everyone watching could tomorrow take some time in the afternoon, I've got a longer form video showing up where I do a flip through and coloring of the 2020 Goonies adult coloring book flip through. Believe it or not, it's the 40th anniversary of Goonies this year, which was a huge impact on my life.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do some Goonies pages this year, but we're starting with the flip through and it's actually one of my favorite pages I've colored so far for my channel because I took 20 hours on a Saturday. And so anyway, please check that out. It premieres at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time tomorrow. Next Friday, I'll be here live streaming by myself, 2 p.m. Pacific, doing some Lord of the Rings because you guys said you wanted to see some Lord of the Rings, and it's the 79 cartoon, not the Peter Jackson Hobbitses. So
Ralph Bakshi.
Yeah, and then next Sunday I'll be here live with Chris Plastic of Shiny Plastic People, and we're gonna do some Star Wars. So anyway, full week. And thank you, Brick, for joining me.
Anytime, Allison. Love that we actually get to hang out and talk.
It's been overdue, and it's just between moving and life and whatnot, I've not had enough time to bug you, but don't worry. I'll be bugging you again soon. So everyone watching, don't forget to like, comment, do all the things the algorithm loves, and go buy a Monchhichi. See you next time. See you next Tuesday.